Moving across the pitch, Bart, this right-back situation. Now, this is fascinating. I talked to you earlier at the start of the show about modern speculation, how people see it. This is this. It alarms me when I see this. A lot of people have said now, and maybe it's because of the nature of how Trent's going to go, so that feeds into it. But you'll have seen this, the element of Trent's going, sod him, Bradley's going to be number one, we won't miss Trent. That type of thing scares the sheer bejesus out of me as a statement, because this isn't to be derogatory in any way about Conor Bradley. I like the player. I like what he brings. I like the way he plays for the shirt. I do think he can be a really valuable squad member. But the first thing, just to avoid any semblance of doubt, and I think it's important this is spelled out in the metrics, Trent Alexander-Arnold going is bad news for Liverpool, isn't it, in terms of the metrics and the stats?
It is. I mean, Conor's played a lot of games for us this season, not as much as Trent, all right? And again, this as I said, the same dashboard, I haven't quite updated this since last the weekend. But I think even if you went pro rata, to try and be fair, Conor's a different fullback. He's got 37 penalty box touches versus Trent's 49. So that shows you the difference in the style, right? So Conor is going to drive you into the box. Trent just isn't doing that anymore. Trent will look to get in the 10 midfield, and if he goes high and wide, he goes high and wide. Doesn't go in the box. All right. So that's a difference in style. But I mean, like, Trent's got 50 shots. Conor's got 9. There's an instance at the weekend where Conor should have laced it into the bottom corner. He didn't get past it. Yeah, so there's things like that. But the key thing, taking out there's various things in terms of style, but the big thing that people will talk about and people will get bored and whatever, and those who don't want to know about it, but Trent has an EPV of 10.54 for the season, right? Bradley has 1.4. And if you go to our old favourite of Mr. Mark R, Trent is not only the top player for Liverpool, he's also the top player in the goddamn league, right? At 0.3 from fullback, Bradley is 0.1. That's the same as Konate. Now I've got this filter for Liverpool, right? But if you took that filter off, Trent is above De Bruyne, above your Maddison, above your Salvino, above Fernandes, all United fans out there. So, and that's our right back. Whereas Conor would be way down on page 3. He's not even on page 3. He's below Virgil. I mean, I'm not trying to have a go at the kid, but he's quite far down in terms of your production, right? Yes, he does other things, but it's just the fact, that he is not that creative as a fullback at the moment. Looking at his profile, there is a lot to like about this kid. As you said, I do generally like the kid, right? I don't like the way he spent quite a lot of time injured, but somehow he might have got overplayed as a youngster and he's fed in the fields a bit. You have to learn how to do the minutes and the rest of it. But defensively, loves a tackle. And that is an old school cliche, but you and I are both old enough to know that's one of the things we love a fullback to do. For us personally, we've looked at it. We prefer these two metrics, your blocks and interceptions, to be higher, right? Aerials, though, as we keep banging on about it, Conor's actually pretty decent at them. Right? 81st percentile for aerials. In between the boxes, having lambasted his passing that isn't his strong point, it isn't, right? Progressive passes is not necessarily a strong point, 56. So progressive would give you the XT and the rest of it, and that shows you where he isn't. But he carries it progressively. So he moves the ball 20% closer to goal, 3.84 times a game. So that's 97th percentile. That's very good, right? He's just below 80 in terms of passing, 80% about 83%. And the attempts are good enough at that amount of passes. In the opposition box, XG gets into good positions, doesn't score. Assists, 88th percentile. Okay, great. This is the bit he's not doing at the moment, which is he's not turning the opportunity to have threat into a goal creating action, which would give him the XT and the XG, and he's not doing that. All right, he's at 59th percentile for that, which is probably one of the lowest of all of our fullbacks, right? So that's that's just something to look at. But again, looking at all of his metrics, shooting, is not a weakness of his. He just doesn't do it enough, right? He just doesn't have, shots on target 75th, shots on target for a fullback 93rd. But it's not. There's not high volume passing. He's good at it. There's nothing wrong with saying he's good at passing. It just doesn't give you. It's not long. It doesn't give you the progressiveness. All those elements that give you the stuff that Trent does. He doesn't do. But that again, this is like comparing. This is comparing Conor to Van Dijk in some respects. Yeah,
unfair in a way. Yeah,
it's quite unfair because Van Dijk's the best centre half in the world, and Conor is just scrabbling around trying to be Liverpool's fourth choice. So it's a little bit like that. Shocker and actions. There is some green on here. Don't get me wrong. He takes players on. We know that 90th percentile. He does draw a foul. Great. And he's 70% for goal creating. So he does have an impact. It's just not sustained at a high level in the 80th or 90th percentiles. Defensively, a lot of green. We're not going to lie about that. He takes dribblers on. He 35th percentile in terms of dribblers tackled, so it's not high, but he takes them on. Does lose a bit though, so he's in the 10th percentile. Errors. This is a good thing. Again, a bit like Costas, the errors per game is rounded up at 0, which is 88th percentile. Right, so that's a good thing. He doesn't have any on-ball errors that are leading to stuff that Robbo does. Right, he's not at the scene of the crime. He's fairly safe in possession. The thing we haven't got here, which Fantasy Football Scout does, for those who've got access, will show you that his drop-off when pressed is considerable. It's the worst in the team. So when you press Conor, his passing accuracy drops off, I think, something like 14 percentage points, whereas Trent is down by 5. So you saw that the weekend with Leicester. There's a couple of instances it was played out to him from his fullback or his goalkeeper, and as soon as the Leicester player pressed him, he tried to ball down the line, which was miss-hit, and Mo couldn't win it, and then they countered us, right? There was 2 or 3 times like that. So that is something he can work on. It's not, nothing to take away from him. But aerials at 60th percentile. So there's a lot to like about Conor. It's just comparing him to like the career. I don't know he's left back, but it's just there is some areas he still needs to develop. Right now, I will bring up Trent because Trent's Trent. Right, Trent gives us exactly what you want: tackles, interceptions, playing in the green. Yeah, he's been doing this system for years, so he knows what to do. He's not going to carry the ball, we know that, but progressively passing it, that's nearly 8.5 passes a game are progressive, 99th percentile. Passes attempted, 97th percentile. Yes, the completion is low, but we know that that's because he takes the risk.
Yeah,
he loves the knuckleball into midfield and does that. But look at those attacking metrics, like 90th, 97th, 99th for shots. They're all shot-created actions, 98th percentile. There's nearly 4 a game that he produces a action that creates a shot. That is outstanding, and that is what we're going to be missing. Aerials, got to call it out, not a strong point. He's in the first percentile for that. Probably the worst out of all the fullbacks we've looked at tonight. Look at him a bit more detailed. Shooting, he's got some green up there in terms of shots. Takes a good amount of shots. In terms of passing, we know this is going to be his strength. Key passing 95th, expected assist 95th, passes into penalty area 99th, passes into the final third 99th, progressive passes 99th. This is the stuff that we are going to miss when people talk about, we're okay, we've got Conor. Conor doesn't give you this. And not many fullbacks do, but we don't have anybody else in the team that does this either, right? Pass types, dead ball, through balls, 99, switches, 99, crosses, 91st. Yeah, I could go on, but there's just so many elements here where he's in the 90th percentile. Yeah, defensively, he's not as bad as people make out, not at all. He's quite happy to take dribblers on, attack them at 95th percentile. He makes good challenges, doesn't lose a lot, so there's some, and he's happy to take challenges defensively and high in the 70th. So there are things here that are very good. His interceptions, we said, are high. On the ball, very good. Touches, where's he taking them? He's taking them a good proportion all over all the thirds, really. So it's not a lot of our play goes through Trent, so that's why he's 98th percentile. Carries, although it's not a strength of his, he's still 97th percentile for actually taking a carry on. Might not be progressive, but he's still good. Michelin this year, we've already said it. He loses. Sorry, he loses a lot of aerials, but you could let him have a few things. But if you do the wagon well, Trent's blue, so he outperforms in all the attacking. Conor does do better on some of the other elements because he doesn't take any risks with his passing. He carries the ball more, takes more players on, and he receives the ball in terms of progressive because he's higher up pitch, right? So there's some elements. That's why Conor has a slightly better profile on those, or better profile than Trent on those elements because of the way he plays differently to Trent. But other than that, Trent monsters him on the attacking metric. So, yeah. Just to re-emphasize that the XT that Trent produces is the best in the league. So progressive passes is one of the best. Is the best in the league. You know, it's just it is what it is. Unfortunately, he is going to be a huge loss to our team. But he's made it cool, and sometimes you got to wish him all the best.
I don't know about that last line, but I was with you up to there, and that will not be a popular line, I know, for the chat panel either. And I suppose, in essence, because we're talking about Bradley being number one, that was the focus. You know, it seems like that is what the club has decided, unless there's some big surprise coming our way. And just analysing more Bradley, because like you said, it almost feels like too harsh to line him up to Trent, but just it's been clearly spelled out when Trent leaves. We lose a lot. We lose the biggest threat in the league. Just to be clear, people, as the stats show, like don't get it twisted about what is walking out the exit door. But in terms of Bradley, there is a lot to like. As we said, carries outstanding. Even touches getting forward that way. Keeps his passing quite simple. So does that, you know, decent pass. There's a lot to like about this kid. Are the two things, if I picked it up right, that and one's injuries and being fit, because we don't know he can do 3,000 minutes as we talk about yet. That's a big ask for the league. So that's the big one. But it's the second one just in terms of replacing Trent as best as he can, a different player, a carrier. But the actual numbers, as in, like you said, as in getting shots off, actually getting more assists that way. Is that what you think really needs to go up from Bradley? Or is there something else you think that needs to take his game to the next level?
No, I think that's exactly it. It's output. He across the series in the 6th percentile. So even when he's getting into areas to deliver, like Costas passes the ball where he's not a carrier, but he still crosses the ball. We saw when his profile is really high when he's crossing.
Yeah.
So however we get into position, we need our fullbacks to cross the football because Mo, Leszczynski are not really going to do that. They do a little bender in, they do a little drifted ball, sort of pass. It's not a cross. So we need our fullbacks to do that. And also for all of Bradley's good work, and he is good at carrying the ball and he gets into good positions, it's just that bit on the end that he needs to play a volley behind or, you know, play it earlier to Mo. Those kind of link-ups, play a wall pass with Mo, play a wall pass with Conor. That's the element to this game that he isn't quite there at the moment. That could also be because he's not run the patterns enough. He's not been involved in the team on a regular basis to get used to the patterns of play. So that you saw it the weekend as well. He was slightly out of sync on a few things. He was slightly behind or two in front. And that will only come with playing, right? So you could be sat here in it, I don't know, hopefully not Christmas, but you know what I mean, Christmas time, we could be going, no, you know what? Now he's learned the patterns, he's absolutely fine, you know, but he has still got to learn those patterns. And while he's still doing that, it might not be there. It might also not be natural for him to get as wide as we need a fullback to do, but we shall see. I think the balance you've got to find between the two fullbacks will be really interesting for Slot to decide upon. And the other thing that Bradley's got to do is he's got to stay fit.